समारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नान्तः प्रज्ञं न बहिष्प्रज्ञं न उभयतः प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञानघनं न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञम् अदृष्टम् अव्यवहार्यम् अग्राह्यम् अलक्षणम् अचिन्त्यम् अव्यपदेश्यम् एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम् प्रपञ्च उपशमं शान्तं शिवम् अद्वैतं चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः। So I was thinking today is the 99th class on Mandukya, Karika, long time. And in fact, the seventh mantra itself, which we just chanted, this is the 35th class on that. So I just want to explain what my methodology is. When I had seen Swami Akhandananda's 3 volumes on Mandukya Karika, one thing became very apparent to me, that he's actually unfolding the entire Shastra in terms of this one text. I mean, I had seen a lot of the similar kind of things from commentaries by other acharyas, but I think for the first time I saw that it is possible to really reveal the full extent of what is to be given just from one important text, not any text, but this is a very important text. So I think, if you recall, I had already indicated to you that that's what I intend to do, following the steps and examples of Swami Akhandananda, and that's what I'm doing. I was thinking that there is an interesting example that came to my mind. Suppose you want to go to visit one of the important cities of the world, countries or cities like London, which has so much history to it, and you want to see the museums, the plays, the food, the people. Similarly, if you wanted to go to Rome or Paris, for example, and you want to explore the full set of experiences, what are you going to do? The first thing you're going to do, which will take a while, let's say about a week or 2 weeks, the first thing you will do is to go stay in a hotel. You will select a good hotel, something that suits you, and you will make reservations and you will stay there. And every morning you are going to go on different parts of the city to see different experiences. Then you'll come back in the evening and stay at the same place. So the hotel becomes a basis for your experiences in that city, isn't it? Very similar to that is the approach by Swami Akhandanandaji, which I'm following. So, and specifically, I would say that the seventh mantra, it's interesting if you were to tell somebody, even a Vedantic friend, he says, "What are you studying? What classes are going on?" And you say, "We're studying the Mandukya Upanishad. We haven't even come to the Karikas yet." Well, we have done a little bit of the Karika on the Agama Prakaranam, but not much. Mostly it is the Mandukya. And so if you were to say, "Well, we are on class number 35, and they will scratch their heads and say, "What?" But that is really what we are doing. The seventh mantra is what is called, and this is an important thing for those of you that want to learn Sanskritam, and it's called Alambanam. Alambanam. This is a very fundamental aspect of the culture, both the religious and the spiritual culture of Sanatana Dharma, is that you explore. There is a multitude of things to explore, but it has to be done with an alambanam. In other words, you cannot go to London or Paris or Hong Kong or to all these important cities without staying at one place from which it facilitates your exploration. So similarly, that is the seventh mantra, is the alambanam. So now you understand, I'm not trying to repeat or anything. There's so much more to be done. I can probably spend another year without going to the next one. I don't think we will. I think we'll limit it to a certain extent because there's more to do. But that's really what it is. And so this concept of alambanam is a very fundamental part of Sanatana Dharma, of the Vaidika Dharma. You can see this all over the place. So, for example, the marriage system. In the Hindu marriage system is an alambanam. You're finding a spouse is not an end in itself. It is an alambanam. This is why, in the arranged marriage system, you try to match as best as you can. So you don't have to really be very careless about it. You shouldn't be careless about it. You do have, the families have a certain amount of care. But beyond a certain point, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because no matter who you marry, there's going to be problems. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be sukha dukkha. There's going to be children. There's going to be diseases. There is so much in-laws. You have to deal with the whole family of in-laws. Challenges. All these are meant for exploration of how do I build my life so that I have some progress, some discipline. And it is much better to do it with an alambanam. Same thing is true for our vigraha, or what so-called deities. So the deities are an alambanam. You adopt, it's kind of like marriage, really. You adopt a deity that you want to be devoted to. Whether it is Rama or Christ or Muhammad or Ganesha, doesn't matter, really speaking. But it is good to be devoted to that alambanam, and then you explore all the religious and spiritual ideas associated with that alambanam. Anyway, I didn't want to spend that much time, but I thought that I will take this opportunity when we are really spending so much time on the seventh mantra to explain why and what. Okay. You know, we were looking at the example of life as watching a movie. Remember that last week we had started on that. And it's a very important and useful way of looking at your life. And we'll spend, since I've taken that up as an example, we'll explore again, an example of an alambanam. We'll explore the various aspects that we can learn from, and we will do that even today, and we'll continue to do that. So watching a movie is a very good example of the way we should look up in our life. Very good example. Because it's exactly in the same way it was not there at the time of Adi Shankara and others. They didn't have this kind of an example to base them, but it will be exactly the same. Okay, even our modern gurus like Akhandananda ji and all these other people, they use the same example. So I can adopt that. So watching the life as a movie is a very useful thing. But in it by itself, it is incomplete. You can say it's a partial progress, almost like a first step. Because the question is, what do you gain from watching a movie? Or what do you gain from looking at your life as a movie? What do you gain from it? This is what we have to see. So it is a first step that it is, yes, please look at it that way. But that's not a complete one. Why not? Why isn't it not complete? This is what we have to explore today. So imagine what the movie is. The movie allows you, going to a movie, the experiencing of a movie, is to allow you to experience the emotional side of life, the story of the life, without being bound by it. So you can actually experience the joys and the sorrows of being identified with certain characters, while at the same time being cognizant of the fact that even though it moves me, it affects me, I can be independent of it. As an example, I would say that in a movie, you can be crying, you can be shedding tears, you can take your you know your handkerchief out and dab your eyes. While you can do that, you try not to do that because then others will say, "What? I'm not crying. Why are you affected so much?" So you try not to do that. But supposing you're crying, at the same time you're eating the buttered, salted popcorn. Same time. You're crying as well as you're eating the popcorn. This is a very beautiful way of understanding that you are in a way experiencing without saying that this is real. Because the very fact that you are eating popcorn while simultaneously being affected by it is a testimony of this viveka. Because supposing you got a bad news, somebody close to you passed away or something, and tears come out of you and you start crying. Recently we've had so many people that have recently passed away, and it is interesting even on the celebrations, one we are going to tomorrow, even in the celebrations of life, when their children speak of their parents who just passed away, their eyes swell up, and sometimes they have to dab their eyes. It's very natural. They recall the very real memory of their parents passing away, somebody passing away, and they're crying. At that time, they're not. Can you think about where they will have a popcorn? Is that possible? No. So here's the situation. Here's the end result. In a movie, you can do that. You can enjoy the participation in the movie and also be cognizant of somebody that you are. Because that doesn't happen with children. So this is why, supposing you were to take a small child, let's say 2-year-old, into a kind of like a violent movie, which is, supposing, well, not even violent, supposing you take a movie where there is a tiger that leaps onto it, especially if it's a 3D movie. You don't think that the child is going to be so scared that it'll just cling to the parents? Because it really thinks it's overwhelmed by the experience. But then the parents can say they shouldn't actually never take the 2-year-old to a movie like that. But supposing it's 4 or 5 years old, you can tell, this is not real. It's just close your eyes. So this is the situation. So now we can extract from it the following things. Looking at your life like a movie is just a partial progress. It is not a full progress. When will there be a full progress? It is when you discover an identity away from the movie. So looking at the world as a movie is a very good step. In fact, this is what is called the Atma Anatma Viveka. You can say that you are the Sakshi. You can talk to somebody and say, see, you are the Sakshi. And what you are seeing is really just a movie. Fine. And the person will say, wow, that's good. Yeah. But then the next thing is that what you're seeing is affecting you, your mind. How do I extract myself as a Sakshi away from it? This is the topic that we are going to explore based on the 7th mantra. This is the topic. What is the topic? How do I cognize? How do I cognize? This is a good word, cognize. You cannot say recognize. You cannot say recognize. Because recognize means that you already know something. We can use the word, but use it properly. When I cognize, you can even say recognize, an identity that I have which is different from what I am seeing. And just saying that I'm the Sakshi doesn't do it. You know that, I know that. That doesn't really help. So what is to be expected? Aha! That is what we have to explore. This is the second line of the 7th mantra. Atrishtam avyavaharyam, all of that. And what does it mean? How do I look upon it? It is to explore the identity. Explore. We haven't explored. This is what ignorance means. I'm unaware of the mahima of myself. I have not explored it. Remember that in the Zoom class, I think Panna was talking about, I would surrender. And my comment to her, and now same one, it is much more than surrendering. It is exploring. Surrendering is a part of it, but it has to be understood. This is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. Because the Arjuna surrendering to Krishna is just the first step. Now he has to explore what the meaning of the self is. This is what we have to do. Because until then, if I don't have complete ignorance, I have such an ignorance that it is doubtful. They say Sakshi and is free. How is that possible? I'm affected by things. How can I be independent? This is called samshaya. I will bring in this word just because I just happened to read Swami Khandananda is such a scholar of Sanskrit. He's just amazing, and it is a pleasure to see how he explains the etymology of words. So this word samshaya had come up. So what he said was, samshaya is almost like sleep. It's a complete sleep. That means you haven't really woken up yet. You haven't woken up. In fact, he says the word samshaya consists of sam, which is samyak. Samyak means pretty well, very strong, not an ordinary doubt, very strong doubt. And shaya, shaya means sleep. So for example, shayana. Shayana means the explanation of the definition of sleep is called shayana in Sanskrit. And what is shayana is also shaya plus na. And samshaya, which is a doubt, is also shaya. So it is really like sleepwalking. We are not really awake. And until we have an understanding of what is my identity is, I will continue to not benefit from this movie. Because the movie has two aspects to it. One aspect is that it provides you with an experience. The second aspect of that is it also gives you an idea whether it is real or not. So there are two segments. And when the experience and the knowledge of it cannot be distinguished, it affects you. It affects you just like any sukha dukkha does. When you have the viveka that it is an experience but you have the knowledge that it is an experience as an appearance, not reality, you're free. I think this is why Swami Akhilananda's example of the blueness of the sky is so beautiful, so important. We should just think about everything in life in that example. So, as you know very much that we have taken this example before, where Brahma means taking something which is not the way it is. This is the effect of the Maya Shakti, which is essential for any kind of a vyavahara. Maya Shakti is very important in the transaction of life. And so the Maya Shakti provides you with the Brahma. Brahma means seeing something without the reality of it. So a very classical example is seeing a snake in a rope is Brahma. And if you understand by the proper light on the thing that it is a rope, not a snake, then the vision of the snake disappears. You can't say, my gosh, did I ever say it was a snake? You can do this. Nothing will happen. Snakeness will never come. Even if you try to imagine, oh my gosh, here's something that captivated you and now it's gone. So this is that example. The other example is that of a space which is blue in color. Because this is a very much more important example. Because even if you understand that space cannot be blue, you can enjoy the blueness of the space. Very important example. That means that you are still looking outside and you're looking at the blueness, but you know that the blueness is it's a very interesting phenomena. We don't know where the blueness is. You can't touch it. You can't weigh it. You cannot wash your clothes in that blueness. We don't know where it is, but it is there. So similarly, in a movie, you understand that it is an appearance, not a reality. How do I discover that the world is an appearance, not a reality? How? This is the real work ahead of us in Vedanta. So for there we can look at various aspects of it, and I'll tie it back to the seventh mantra, but just some more exploration of the Shastric principles. So it is said that you have to now grow up to understand this. There's a growth involved because it's a question of jnanam, of knowledge. It's not a physical thing. It's a question of jnanam. And jnanam requires eligibility. Even if it is there, you may not understand it because you are not qualified to understand it. So this is what needs to be done. And so this is what is called the right kind of sadhana to see that this is not real. It requires some preparation, some work to do that. So here, the Vedanta, as you know, I'm just revising some of it so that we can see, and I'm driving towards the distinction between the first part of the seventh mantra and the second part of the seventh mantra. That's the goal that I have to explain. Then we can completely understand the first one, which is na antah pragyam na bahish pragyam, what it is not versus what it is, which is adrishtam, avyavaharyam, etc. So that's how the seventh mantra is divided. And so that is my goal. But the way to reach that goal effectively is to visit the sadhana which Vedanta recommends. The sadhana that Vedanta recommends comes in two varieties: Bahiranga sadhana and Antaranga sadhana. The outer sadhana and the inner sadhana. So let's briefly examine those, and if we have time, then we will go further from it. So this is the steps of preparation for jnanam. So what is the Bahiranga sadhana? Let's look at that first. So it is pointed out that you need to move in the direction where you want to go. Very obvious. You'll say, why are you even telling me that? If you have to go from point A to point B, then the sadhana is to travel in that direction, not in the opposite direction. Because there you will go even farther from your goal. So you need to go towards the goal. What is the goal for us? This needs to be at least partially understood. So this is the purpose of, in the same examples that I have given, this is the purpose of the undergraduate Vedanta. College level Vedanta is, where am I supposed to go? What is my goal? Very clear. You have to be very clear about it, convinced about it. You may not be clear about it, but you have to be convinced. Yes, that makes sense. So this is number one. Then you have to examine, am I proceeding in that direction or not? This is the Bahiranga sadhana. Both sadhana, Antaranga and Bahiranga. But starting with Bahiranga, which is easier. This is kind of like Sthula, more obvious. And then becomes more subtle, which is Antaranga sadhana, that we will come to later. So you move in that direction. So the purpose of the undergraduate Vedanta is to get to know my reality is Satchidananda. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Asti Bhati Priyam Rupam. Asti Bhati Priyam. Satchidananda. I am the same person that exhibits three aspects: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. This is the goal. I don't quite understand that. Fine, you're not at that goal, but this is what my goal is. This much the undergraduate Vedanta clarifies. The graduate level Vedanta is to make you reach that goal expeditiously. Not even expeditiously, it makes you reach it, to complete the journey. Right? And there's some very interesting aspects to that we will explore. I'm just setting the stage. Okay, so back to Bahiranga sadhana. So what we said was, first you establish...
I don't understand back to buy it on the side.
That must be Gemini that just got woken up. Sorry. So the goal is that I need to understand that I am Satchidananda. This is the goal. So now the sadhana, Bahiranga sadhana, is to go in that direction, as I mentioned. What that means is that in my life, the conduct of my life must conform to those three elements: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Elements means aspects, really. They are not separate parts, there's the same aspect. What is Sat is also Chit, as we will see more clearly. And what is Chit and Sat is also Ananda. The two are exactly the same. This is what we have to understand. But in life, what we have to do is that we lead our life in all these three directions. Number one is Sat. Sat means truth. Opposite from untruth, lying, cutting short things, behaving in unpredictable ways. What we have to do is, this is an absolute essential. You cannot reach Satchidananda unless you lead a truthful life. Start examining how you behave. Are you reliable, truthful? Do you exaggerate? Even exaggeration is lying. Acceptance of who you are is the truth. Are you non-accepting of yourself? Do people appreciate you as a sadhu, as a good person? If not, please change to become a sadhu. Sadhu doesn't mean a swami. It means a truthful person. Examine your conduct. If you're not in a Sat Swarupa, you'll never reach the goal. You'll be going in the opposite direction. So this is the Sat Swarupa. Then comes the Chit Swarupa. So Chit Swarupa here means brightness, education, wisdom in your life. A tendency to understand. And to also impart it to the others. Participate in things that are educated and impart the education to others. So Dayanand used to say that, I remember this very well. This was in a satsang. I recall this in Sailorsburg, actually, much later after we graduated. I was sitting in a satsang. And there was this teenager who asked Swamiji, said, Swamiji, what kind of books did you read when you were growing up? And her sense was, what kind of books should I read? And his example was very instructional. I had not thought of it that way. He said, you know, what I would recommend, what I used to do and what I would recommend that you do is to be educated about books that are classical in nature. By the way, the same thing is true in music. He was in there also, he would say that instead of really enjoying pop music, begin to understand classical music. So the classics means fundamentally pure. So whether in books or in music or in any other thing. So this is part of the chit, is that Swamiji used to say that the books that I would read are historically true and historically with some lessons. And this is why, for example, the reading of our Itihasa, of Ramayana and Mahabharata is so useful, because in addition to adhering to some simple principles, it tells you what the principles are. How do you gain from it? So that's what his answer was, that really I would recommend that you read. It could be from Shakespeare, it doesn't have to be all in India, but whatever books and music you impart into your mind should be pure and classical. So this is the meaning of Chit, moving your life in that direction. Okay, so that's number 2. Then comes Ananda. And there it is very simple, rather simple, which is learn to be satisfied and happy. Get yourself in situations, move in the direction of being even partially happy. And if your mind tells you some things that you are not happy, you'll just say, be quiet, I'm okay. And to also make others happy. So this is an important thing. This is called the Sat also, and Chit also, and Ananda also, that you take both sides of your life as two sides of the same coin. You cannot be just on one side and then you don't expect the same thing from the others. For example, to clarify that, I didn't state that very well. To clarify that, so for example, it is very important in our Vedic culture that the means must be consistent with the ends. And this is where our issue with Islam is. That Islam says that you can kill to reach heaven. We can't do that. You cannot have a violence as any part of that. And so both you and the others must be same. Otherwise, you're going in the opposite direction. You're not moving towards where you want to be. So in terms of Ananda, don't let things bother you. Make an attempt in your life not to be bothered by things. And also do not bother others. You can say, I don't want to be bothered, but I don't care if I can bother anybody else. No. So this is the Ananda. So this is moving in the direction of where you want to go, both in Sat and Chit and Ananda. This is called Bahiranga Sadhana. Now we come to the Antaranga Sadhana. What is Antaranga Sadhana? So, in short, and then we can spend a lot of time on this, but just in a summary, Antaranga Sadhana is Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, which means find out which way of thinking is truthful and very helpful. So this is what Shruti and Yukti and Anubhava does, because the Shruti provides you with a definite understanding of what is going on. Yukti means that you think about it and participate in understanding the truth of it. And Anubhava means that you can see that it is really working. So this is the Antaranga sadhana. But there is more to it. As you begin to follow the principles of listening, then thinking about it, mananam, and actually in allowing it to become imbibed in your mind, nididhyasanam, there are three ways of doing that in Vedanta. Okay? Three ways of doing that. One is called Karya Karana Vilapanam. And I'll explain in a minute. Let me define them. Karya Karana Vilapanam. The second one is Bheda Brahmanam. Bheda Brahmanam. And the third one is Sarvatma Bhavam. Sarvatma Bhavam. So these are the three constituents of what is called Antaranga Sadhana. And here, roughly speaking, the first part of the seventh mantra is Karya Karanam Vilapanam and Bheda Brahma. And the second part of the seventh mantra is Sarvatma Bhava. So we'll explore that in that direction. So now let us go to what is Karya Karana Bhava. So the Karya Karana Bhava means that Karya is actually a form of Karana. Karya means an effect and Karana means the cause. The effect is a product of the cause, and it is the expression of the cause. It is the cause in a more visible form is called Karya. So instead of looking at all that, very simple example is that of a metallic, let's say anything, let's say a golden ornament, a ring. So a ring on your finger, a gold ring on your finger is a Karya. And the Karana is the gold. So the Karana is the superior, it's the mother and father of the Karya. And so Vilapanam means you mentally look at the Karya and dissolve it. Vilapanam means dissolution. You dissolve it into the Karana. And here, an understanding of the 5 basic elements that the world is made out of is an important understanding. what it means is that anything that you see is made out of the Pancha Mahabhutas. So if you look at an inert object, or you look at a living organism, it is in fact the karya of the Pancha Mahabhutas. And the Pancha Mahabhutas, the five great elements, are also in the form of Karana Karya. So, from subtle to the gross. So, the Akasha is the most subtle. It's almost like a basic Karana. And from there comes Vayu, the air. And the next one is Agni, the fire. The next one is Apaha, the water. And the last one is Prithvi, the earth. So the Prithvi also is basically nothing but water. And the water is also basically nothing but warmth. And the warmth also is some changes in the electrons and protons, which is really based on the magnetic principles in the Akasha. So fundamentally, for example, you can say that the Prithvi is also nothing but Akasha in a way. This needs to be either you explore it or you at least accept it for the time being. And what Vedanta says, this is something that is not normally revealed, is that if you look at, supposing you have a clay pot, and you have this example that inside the clay pot, suppose you have some consciousness in space. Supposing you have, so this is called Chit Swarupa, Chidananda. So if supposing the space has some consciousness, which it doesn't, but imagine that. Now the space consciousness will also be in the vessel consciousness, and it will be in the total consciousness, what is called Ghatakasha and Mahakasha. So supposing you have Ghatakasha, so the Ghatakasha, the example given is that the Ghatakasha, the vessel consciousness, has an abhimana. It can tell the rest of the Mahakasha, listen, I am somebody important because I can actually carry things. I can have some liquid, some gas inside. You can't. You cannot carry anything. I have a shape, some personality. And so this is what is called abhimana, some identity that I am someone. And so the Akasha says, you're being so silly. If I can use the word stupid, you're being very silly. You are nothing but me. In fact, the vessel that you are enclosed in, which is a upadhi, is also space. So this Vedanta normally does not say, but this is the advanced Vedanta. In advanced Vedanta, so we can go back to Karana Karya Vilapanam. You see, that first of all bodies, whether they are inert or living, are nothing but Panchamahabhutas. And the Panchamahabhutas are also nothing but Karana Karya. Ultimately, it goes to nothing but space. So the Mahakasha can say, you are just being silly. You are nothing but me, and you are not going to last. Why do you want to have an abhimana for a short while, when in fact you can become the whole Mahakasha? Why didn't you do that? In fact, then everything is enclosed in you, and your identity is in the total space. And so the the Ghatakasha at first says, no, this is all very theoretical. All theoretical. I can see that I am a room space. I can see I am a Ghatakasha. This much I can see. But I don't see how I am the Mahakasha. It says, the Mahakasha says, one way to do that is to do Karya Karana Vilapanam. That all Karyas are nothing but an expression of Karana. And you keep on going all the way. Similarly, we should see that you and I are really nothing but Panchamahabhutas. We came from Panchamahabhutas. Somehow it became I'm a formful entity. And so now I have abhimana, that I am this body. So the body is actually a upadhi, just like a ghata. And I have the consciousness that I am this body. So I am this body has two elements. I am is the Chit Swarupa, and the body is the upadhi. And this upahita becomes I am a person. Silly. So it says you are not just a person, you are the whole thing. You are the Chit Swarupa, the very Sakshi. So the Antaranga Sadhana, one step is to look at Karya Karana Vilapanam. One step. The second step is Bheda Brahma, what is called Sajatiya Vijatiya Swagata Bheda Rahityam. That really speaking, so this is the more advanced step, that all Bhedas means differences. Bheda means distinctions, differences. By nature are Brahma. So, going back to the example of the blueness of the space. So the blueness is akin to Bheda. Blueness is a way of looking at Bheda. You cannot literally look at blueness as a Bheda. Why? Because the blueness is not yellowness. It has some distinction. And of course, the blueness also doesn't stay. For example, within the room, you don't see blueness of the space. Only when you go outside, and it has to be during the day. At nighttime, you do not see blueness. If it is polluted, you don't see blueness. So the blueness also has instability, and it has limitations with respect to other conditions. It has to be light. It cannot be dirty. And it has to be infinite. You have to look outside. So this is what is called Brahma. So similarly, when we say na nantav pragyam, na bahish pragyam, na ubhatav pragyam, na pragyana ganam, na pragyam, na pragyam. So the first part of the seventh talks about Bheda. Bheda, distinctions, differences, specificity. How? I am a person, Vishwa, only partially during the day. I am a different person in my dream state. I disappear during the deep sleep state, exactly like blueness. The blueness depends very much on some specific conditions. Similarly, my status as Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so is all dependent on a particular condition. This is Bheda. The very aspect of Vyavahara is Bheda Janita. It is based on distinctions. All distinctions are Brahma. Only Akasha is the truth in that example. The blueness is a Brahma. All gunas are Brahmas. All Vyavaharas must have gunas. That is also Brahma. So the next step of the Antaranga sadhana, step number 2, of resulting from Shravanam, Malanam, Nididhyasanam, is Bheda Brahmatvam. Bheda Brahmatvam means that I have to see that There is no distinction in me, the Sakshi. The Sakshi has no Vijatiya Bheda, no Sajatiya Bheda, no Swagata Bheda. Sajatiya means different categories. Let's say Vijatiya. So Vijatiya means there's a family of cows and a family of horses. These are two different jati. So there is no distinction like that. Or perhaps there is Sajatiya Bheda. So within the family of cows, there are Jersey cows, there are Desi cows, there are spotty cows, there are white-colored, single-colored cows, there are African cows, there are Indian cows. They're different, all they are within the same one, and no distinction. Then there is a Swagata Bheda. Swagata Bheda means that supposing there is an atom, it looks like a single atom. In the atom itself, there's electrons and protons and all kinds of distinct things within the same thing, even though the atom is the same everywhere. Sakshi has none of these three. In fact, it has no Bheda. Abhed. So this is what is called Vijatiya Sajatiya Swagata Bheda Rahityam. Rahityam is called, that's the second one. Then comes the third part of the Antaranga Sadhana, which is called Sarvatma Bhava. So this is reaching the level of the Sakshi, independent of jatis, independent of Karya Karana Bhava, independent of anything. Swagata Rahitam. Swagata Bheda Rahitam. Saswarupa. This is what is called Sarvatma. And this is explored in the last part of Antaranga Sadhana, which is what the second line of the seventh mantra gives, which is Adrishtam Avyavaharyam, etc. That exploration is necessary. We need to understand that. And so, in summary, your experience of watching the world as a movie will not be complete. It won't be useful. It won't yield you what you are really looking for until you discover your identity of Sarvatma Bhavam as being separate from Jivatva. This we will explore further in the next class. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Mudhyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yes, Shanti Kumar, yes, you're right that the science has a different way of understanding, of explaining the elements of the creation. But it is the Panchamahabhutas, as the word Mahabhutas. So the Mahabhutas are actually the basic elements from which all the scientific elements come about. So it's another level beyond what the science is used to doing. And so those are all given in the Panchamahabhutas. And so it is not, it's a non-understanding of the Panchamahabhutas. And so it is not right or wrong, it is partial. They haven't completely done the analysis yet. And if you keep on, just looking at the fundamental particle, the basic fundamental particles are the Panchamahabhutas. And the Panchamahabhutas are also nothing but a Brahma, pardon me, Panchamahabhutas are also Brahma, and the Brahma is the Sakshi. And so the science does not yet accept the Sakshi as the basis of the consciousness, as the very basis of the entire creation. And so their understanding is partial, not complete. It is not wrong or right, it is not complete. That's the way I would look upon that. All right, if there's no other questions, then I take your leave and we will see you next time. Hari Om.